Alright, guys, we're back again after a 2 week hiatus. Well, only 1 week if you played the Euro and the MMA with me last week. The MMA went all right. The problem was, so I missed cashing in cash. Or I didn't play cash, I just played GPPs. But I missed cashing by 2 points when it was very clear. And the guy from Roto Grinders, Brett Apley, we were on Twitter talking about, and our guy very clearly had a knockdown. Like when you punch someone in the face and you knock them down, that's what a knockdown is. And DK's scoring provider did not give him the knockdown. Gave another fighter 6 knockdowns for basically kicking a guy in his injured leg and him going down. That's, in my mind, not a knockdown. I mean, you could count them both as knockdowns. I wouldn't mind that. But when you miss a very clear punch to the face knockdown, I don't know what else to tell you other than do better. And it's not DraftKings' fault. It's the scoring provider's fault. And the scoring provider needs to do better at actually scoring the fights correctly. And I understand in some cases it can be hard. Like, what's a significant strike? What is an insignificant strike? How do you tell the difference? Well, a knockdown is a knockdown. It's not that hard to tell, really. So that was irking. And then Euro went all right. A lot of what I thought were the good values in the 8K range. Donaldson, Smith, they were bad. Daniel M. In the low range was fire if you went with him at 6,600. Widegren missed the cut. That sucked. He was coming in really hot. But a lot of the guys that I expected to do well did well. I ended up with a lot of 5 of 6, 4 of 6 lineups. Fitzpatrick won after coming in decent but not great form, and he had really good history here. So I think that was kind of the play up top. Wiesberger sucked. He's back in the field this week. So I'm going to talk about the PGA, the BMW Championship, and the Euro Championship, the KLM Open. So we'll start here with the top. This is a no-cut event. And while I'm factoring the course history a bit, I do want to note that when this course was played in the past, it was pretty waterlogged both years. So it led to a lot softer conditions, which I think allowed a lot of the bombers to really have a big advantage here because, as you know, when grass gets wet, ball sticks in it. I mean, some of their drivers might be plugging in the fairway, those years. I mean, that's a possibility. This week we won't have that. It hasn't rained in the Chicago metropolitan area in quite a while, and that is where this tournament is being held. So that being said, I think you can target a lot of the shorter hitters this week that may not have done so well here in the past. I don't think you have to be a bomber to succeed, and while it doesn't hurt, I'm going to be targeting guys that are good approach shots, ball striking, putting. Basically the full package, as usual. And I've looked back on some of the key scoring ranges here for this tournament. The guys that are really doing well in the 3 par 3s the 3 par 5s in the 550 to 600 range tend to find themselves near the top at the end of the week. Those are the holes where you're going to want to be scoring. So I've taken, I believe it's last 24 rounds and not last 12. I could be wrong. For that range, just to get a larger sample size of holes in that range. And also par 4 scoring over the last 12 rounds. This is a par 71 course, so that will be very important as well. There are some shorter par 4s that are quote-unquote drivable, but I don't think a lot of them are. I think 2 of the 3 have more risk than reward. They're very guarded, so you're going to have kind of a layup shot, I believe, but if we get into the top here, Spieth is everyone's pick to win this week. He's coming off 2 second-place finishes. He's played really well here in the past. And those were years where some of these bombers were kind of getting up to the top, probably based on them just being bombers. So I think Spieth this week is definitely the favorite to win. I think you definitely want him in your lineups. My only issue is the price. But that being said, this is a no-cut event. So you have a field of 70 guys, and everyone is playing 4 rounds. Now, we saw this too at the Bridgestone, where we had a field of like around 70 guys, I want to say, and I had a terrible week that week. I mean, I thought I was on the right guys with, I think it was Fowler and some of these guys here at the top, and man, I just had an awful week at the Bridgestone, and I don't really know what to owe that to. I took the stars and scrubs approach, like people said, and it totally failed me. That said, I do think Spieth is the stud to own this week, and Dustin Johnson will go under-owned. I'd rather be playing Spieth as the cornerstone of my lineup on FanDuel, where he is more easy to fit just because of the way salary works out. But even there, I'll probably play 2 cash lineups, and I'll probably play them light this week. Just because with the no-cut event, you lose an edge. Like, in a normal event, you can fade a guy, hope he gets cut, and have him miss the cut by a stroke. And you're kind of, I don't want to say lucky, but you kind of predicted that he would have a less than average performance. And that worked. But in an event like this, even a less than average performance, say 50th place, you're getting 4 rounds out of that guy. So even if you fade a guy, you're getting 4 rounds out of him. There's a chance with some of these guys that you fade them, and then up until Friday or up until Saturday afternoon, it looks good, and then Sunday they go on a run, they shoot like a 65, and they finish like 20th or 10th, and then you're like, well, shit, in a normal week, if they get off to that slow start and don't come around, they're going home, and you're fine. So that's one thing to be wary about this week. But yeah, Spieth is the play up top. He is dialed in right now. If I did a composite of my 2 ranges here, he would be leading by a wide margin. Dustin Johnson is definitely in play as my next guy. He's probably more of a GPP play just because everyone wants and thinks that Spieth will win this week. So there's that. He didn't do too well here in 2013. He did very well here in 2015. And I expect another kind of similar performance. That said, if he goes out and finishes 10th and Spieth is, twice his own and wins like everyone thinks, then it's going to be very hard to kind of make up ground on those DJ teams because you can't really roster these guys with another stud this week. It's very difficult to do that. You kind of have to drop down into the low 8K range, mid to low 8K range, unless you want to take like 3 low 7K guys, and that is really not what I want to be doing. And I should say I have this sorted by FanDuel salary because that is probably where I'll be playing a larger amount of my bankroll this week. I just like the way the salary is set up over there more. It allows me to build lineups that I'm really comfortable with, as opposed to DraftKings where I really don't like the way a lot of my lineups look. So there's that. These odds have been updated yesterday. I'm not sure exactly where they are right now, but I agree with them, so I really didn't want to change them. So it's Spieth a favorite by an odds point over DJ. I don't really like, if putting matters this week so much and the greens are going to be firm and fast, then Spieth, I think, has a bigger advantage over DJ. But You never know. I mean, obviously these guys are the best in the world and you play them, but DJ more GPP for me. I think Spieth is going to be chalky, and if he wins in cash and you don't have him, you're going to be looking up at a lot of lineups. So Justin Thomas is, I think, appropriately priced on FanDuel. DraftKings, I think, underpriced JT. JT has been putting the lights out. He's been ball striking. He's been winning majors. He's been winning playoff events, and he's been coming in sixth in, I believe, one of the other playoff events. The first one, the Northern Trust. I mean, I love Justin Thomas this week on DraftKings at that price, and I think people are not buying in, and I don't really get it. They want Fowler, they want Spieth, they want Day, and we'll get to him. Some news just came out about him that I'm not too fond of, but yeah, I mean JT, he's the third highest odds to win, and he's down at 10-3. I mean, he played really well here in 2015, and that was before he was a total stud on tour. So I have no problem starting a cash lineup with JT this week, and in fact, I think I will be doing that. I'll probably play two. I'll probably play one with Spieth, one with JT, hoping they both do well, have another duel like they did last week. God, I love coffee. Fowler is a lot of people's trendier pick to win this week, but I just worry he hasn't been scoring well enough on par fives. And I mean, on FanDuel, I think that's where you start your cash lineup. If you're not starting with Spieth, as you go Fowler, Fowler, Day, Casey, Stenson. Those are kind of my four FanDuel stud plays. But yeah, I really like Fowler too. I mean, he's been ball striking well. He's an elite putter. We know that. He'll score on the par fours. Fourth place here, 39th here. I think he probably top tens. I mean, this is going to be a star-studded leaderboard if I had to predict it. Just because I think that these are the playoffs, and these guys are, fighting for big money now, and they want to get into next week, in as good as form as possible, and this is the week to start doing that. So, yeah, Fowler, elite again. Rahm has been on fire again, and as another guy that's entrenched in that top five of scoring, my only worry with Rahm is that his putter won't sustain the pace that it's on. His approach game has been a little weaker than I'd like lately. That said, he's been so good that it's really hard to overlook him. FanDuel at 9,200, that seems cheaper than it should be. I don't know why these guys are both like 9,200. I really wish FanDuel would kind of spread these prices throughout the 9K range instead of bunching guys at 9,200, to 9,000. That just pisses me off because it really makes you have to decide between these guys, and I don't like doing that much because they're all elite players. I mean, that said, I think Fowler has the history here and, the putting acumen, which will benefit him on fast greens. Rahm has also been putting so well lately that I think you can take a look at him too. Hideki, traditionally not a great putter. He kind of found his putter a few weeks back, and it kind of went away again at the Northern Trust. But he played well again last week, and I think he might go kind of lost in this mix here, just because of that miscut in the first event. He is fine for the playoffs. I mean, for next week, so that's always a good thing. But yeah, his putting kind of worries me, and his scoring lately kind of worries me a bit too. Maybe that's because of the miscut. I don't really know, but he hasn't been scoring on kind of where I want him to be. So if I had to pick anyone in this range to not play, I think it would be Hideki. But again, the ownership will probably be low on him, so you could probably play him too in GPPs. 9,900 is kind of a weird range for pricing, and I don't think people are going to click on him. People will click on Jason Day because he has a win in the fourth place here. as people have said, the course was different in those years. I mean, the course itself wasn't different, but the way it will play is different. So that's one thing to keep in mind with Jason Day is that maybe a different style of golfer is a better suit this week. So I don't know, but Day's putting last week was pedestrian. He didn't really gain strokes on the field with it. I think until the last round. In the last round, he went low and kind of saved me in a lot of spots. But Thursday, Friday, Saturday, it was looking like he might miss the cut on Friday, and he had to turn it around. But man, the putting was just off for him. I don't know what it was. But yeah, I mean, with that elite history here, I don't see a problem with playing him. My only issue now is that the news came out this morning, like just before I recorded this, that he's switching caddies. He's going away from his longtime caddy, some old dude, who will stay on as his coach, but will not be his caddy. And he will have his longtime high school buddy be caddying for him this week. I don't know about that. I mean, if he comes out of the gate struggling like he did last week, and I mean, he needs these points to really jump up in the FedEx, and making that caddy switch at this point is why? What are you doing? Wait till Atlanta, wait till next week, and then do it. Just why are you doing it now? Get some weeks under this. Get some weeks in with this guy. Not now. What are you doing? I mean, I think that news may have shifted me off Jason Day. And I think I will spend on, Ricky, Rahm, Casey, Stenson, where I can instead of Day right now, just because I don't trust that news. I don't like it. I mean, I think some people expected it because, his caddy was old and, can just stay on as his coach. But, I mean, we saw this with Phil. Phil took, after Bones left, Phil had a month or two of just average, shitty performances. I mean, by Phil's standard, shitty. So, some of these guys too on tour, they'll change their caddy and you won't even know. So, some of these guys, maybe it's just overblown. But, with a lot of them, I think it is a real thing. And with him, with the elite players, if I'm looking for anything to separate these guys, that is something that I think I can separate them by. The price tag is appealing, I will say that. So there is that kind of aspect of things. Gotta check my soccer Champions League stuff here. Interesting developments there. I'll try to run through this kind of fast here. So, Paul Casey just had a kid. Last time Paul Casey had a kid, he won the next week. Sure, that was the Euro Tour, but Paul Casey's shown that having the kid doesn't really hurt him too much, and Paul Casey has been so dialed in lately that I don't see that changing. It's not like, oh, Paul Casey hasn't been practicing, he's taken a month off, and he had a kid, blah, blah, blah. No, Paul Casey's been playing every week. He had a kid, boo-hoo. He didn't have a kid, his wife had a kid. I mean, sure, he's going to have to take care of it, but Paul Casey's been in such good form, and he's been striking the ball so well that I like Paul Casey again this week. He kind of putted well last week, too, which is good. Rory has been just kind of off lately, so I'm going to fade him. Hope that doesn't burn me. 2015, he did really well here. 2013, he sucked. But 2015 was another Bomber's Paradise year. So I'm going to be fading Rory. I'm also going to be fading Brooks. Brooks just kind of has, fallen off a little bit since his really good run earlier in the year. I'd rather just play Stenson. Stenson has been dialed in lately, absolutely dialed in. He is in play on both sites. I think, if I'm not starting, I was starting my cash lineup on DraftKings Day Casey Stenson. Now I think I will be starting it JT, Casey Stenson, if I can. That's what I think I'll do. And if not, I'll probably go like Spieth, Stenson maybe. I don't know. It's hard to get Stenson in with Spieth, but I think you can do it. I think you sacrifice some upside with doing that, but I don't mind that play. And yeah, so next, I mean, Stenson's definitely in play for me in cash on both sites. He's one of my favorite plays of the week. He fits this course very well. Patrick Reed, another one of my favorite plays of the week. DraftKings, like, what are you doing with Patrick Reed's price? Why is he 8K? He's 28 to 1. That's a fucking joke. Okay, now that that's out of my system. Patrick Reed, you play him at 8K. I don't really care about his history here. He's been putting the lights out. His ball striking is fine, and he probably didn't compete with those bombers the other years simply because he's not a big bomber. He kind of is a middle-of-the-road distance guy, but he gets the job done around the green and with putting. And I think that's going to play really well this week if these greens are as fast as we expect. Sergio's going to be a fade for me. He's kind of coming back and hasn't looked amazing. He doesn't really have any top results here despite being considered a top player, so I'll fade Sergio comfortably. Kuchar, Kuchar's more of a fade on FanDuel to me just because I think there's better value with Justin Rose. He's played all right here in the past, and it hasn't, of course, again, Kuchar not a bomber, but maybe that plays into his hands this week, but his approach game has been pretty off recently compared to his normal standards, and his off the tee game hasn't been up to par either, really. So I think I will be fading Kuchar this week and going with Justin Rose. Louis is kind of in the mix here, but he had those really two strong weeks in a row, and then his ball striking kind of tailed off a little bit when you look at the numbers. So, he kind of turned the putting around, but I don't really love Louis this week. I mean, I think he probably top 20s, but I don't know if he has the upside I really want. Not at 8,800 on DraftKings. I'll just take Stenson. Thank you. FanDuel 7,800 is nice, but I'll take Rose, who has 2 top 10s in his last 2 tournaments and has been playing just good golf overall. I like Louis too, but if I had to make that choice between Rahm and Day and Louis and Rose right now, I would take Rose and Rahm over Louis and Day. I'm not sure if I have that $100 right now. I'd have to go check my lineup again, but that's kind of, I think I do have that $100. And I was making a decision at the low end between 2 guys we'll get to, and I think I'd rather use that money at the high end and take the low end guy that's just going to play 4 rounds and I think can do well here. So there's that. Tony Finau, fade for me this week. I think a lot of people are going to be back on him on DraftKings at 7,800. I will be off. His approach game and his putting have been bad recently. If this course is as slippery and fast as people say, I think Finau is going to struggle here. Jason Duffner, another good ball striker, but really not a good putter. Doesn't really fit this course too well, in my opinion, so I'll be fading him. Berger's an interesting fade for me because I think he will be popular at 7,500 on DraftKings. He has odds value there. He has a second place in 2015. My only issue with Berger is that he just hasn't been putting well recently. He hasn't really been playing well at all recently. His off the tee game has been bad. And if the rough here is long like it normally is, I think that's going to penalize him. There's some heathery rough around here, which probably isn't great, and he just hasn't been showing me any upside recently. I mean, sure, if he goes out in 40, it's fine, you get that. But I like a lot of other guys in this range on DraftKings a little more. It won't be so highly owned. So I think I can fade Berger this week and not really hate myself for it. Not like at the St. Jude where you just play the guy. Phil showed up last week, and Phil is trying to make it into, or I think he might be trying to hold on to a spot in the top 30. I like Phil to try to do that this week. I've seen some worries that Phil might withdraw if he starts to tank early. Rob Bolton at PGA was saying about this, so he was fading Phil. With the President's Cup coming up, Phil kind of might just eject and just say, screw this, I'm out. I don't think he will. I don't think he will. After kind of finding a little something in his game last week, I think he wants to kind of keep that up. Sure, he doesn't have he has two 30th, around their place performances in the past year, but at 7,300 on DraftKings, you're getting a top quality player who just had a very good performance all around last week. I mean, tee to green, putting, he was solid in all areas. So I like Phil this week. And this is a course where a lot of guys are going to be hitting less than driver, and I think that will help Phil's accuracy. I like Mark Leishman a lot this week, coming off a third place at the Dell last week. I wasn't really on him, but I will be back on him this week. FanDuel, his price is very low, but I'm not sure if I'm going there. 7,100 is enticing, but there are some other guys that I like for cheaper that allow me to get in these, stud plays. These guys that I think really have a chance to go win. And I think Leishman could, but I just don't see it happening. I see one of these top guys winning again, and sorry, Mark Leishman, but I don't see you falling into that top guy category. You're a very solid player, but what do you want? 7,700 on DraftKings is definitely a good price. I'll have him there. I think him, Reed, and then two of the studs, and then two of these value guys is the way that I'm going to go this week. I was kind of taking a more balanced approach with Day and Casey, but now I think that's going to change with the Day news. And I think that is a real thing. People say, oh, what's the real narrative here? Oh, he, he doesn't play well in hot temperatures. Okay, maybe the courses don't fit in. Maybe there's other factors involved here. I don't really know about some of the narratives, but I think this is a real narrative with Caddy. So there's that. Kisner, I'm going to fade Kisner. He just hasn't shown me anything recently besides Quail Hollow, which, you could say, oh, that's a major, and, he must be playing well. No, I think he was just comfortable on those Bermuda greens, and that really propelled him that week. And, his odds kind of reflect where I think he's at this week. Cantlay is on fire, man. I love Cantlay. Cantlay is a class player. FanDuel 6,700, that's a steal. Charlie Hoffman, I'm going to fade Charlie Hoffman this week. He just hasn't played well here in the past, and didn't really kill it last week at Boston where he had a win and some good performances before. Webb, I'll probably also be fading this week. Webb kind of played all right last week. Or no, he didn't, actually. Webb tanked last week, so I'm going to be off of Webb. Chappell I really like this week. I think Chappell top 25s. He's, again, just underpriced on FanDuel. I have to play the guy. So I think you kind of, in this range, it's Cantlay, Chappell. I like Charles. We'll get to him. Nah, I love. And then fade everyone in the 5K range and take some 4K value because that guy's going to play 4 rounds. So taking that approach, you got Cantlay, Hoffman, I'm fading, Webb, I'm fading, Chappell, I'm playing, probably in cash. 8,400 on DraftKings, a little steep. ZJ, I think, is in play this week again. He's played really well here in the past, and if this course doesn't fit the bomber narrative, I think he has all the tools, especially given that course history, to come back here and do really well this week. My only issue is the way he's been playing has just not been good. And, when he was coming into these tournaments before, I think he had good performances at, in the playoffs coming in, and he just doesn't have that this year. So maybe you take some shares of him, but I'm just not going to go there. I will take Chappell all day. Charles has been playing consistent, steady golf recently, finished 8th here in 2013. He's been crushing this par 5 range that I like, and I think he's definitely in play on both sides. I don't know how many people will be on him, but I really like the price tag. On DraftKings at 7,600, FanDuel 6,400. I think I'll take Chappell. I think there's odds value on Charles too, at 100 to 1. I would have priced him around 80 to 1 in this field, but that's just me. Molinari, I'm just going to fade Molinari again. He just hasn't been playing that well recently. Despite what the stats say, a lot of that is from the PGA, where he played very well. Putted the lights out there, and I just don't see that happening again. This week, Bill Haas, I'm probably going to fade Bill Haas. He just hasn't been striking the ball well enough for my liking, and he's done well here in the past, but I don't really want to bank on that again this week. He got by with his around the green and putting play last week, mainly around the green play. He gained like 5 strokes around the green, which is insane. That just means his approach game wasn't dialed in. He may have had a chip in or two or something that really propelled that, so I don't really like that for him. RCB came to play last week. He did really well. 2 weeks before that, he was bad. I'll fade him comfortably. I wouldn't mind if you took a shot on him. I think he's a class player. Same with Haas. Don't mind if you take shots on these guys for a top 20, but I don't think any of them have a chance to win. Ryan Moore, I don't know what to do with him because he pulled out of the Dell. I think he may have been injured, and maybe it was that back injury that kept him out earlier in the year. And took he took a kind of extended 2-week absence here. I don't really love Ryan Moore this week. That said, he does have really good results here. As an elite ball striker right now, I think you look at him, but man, his putting has been straight atrocious. Like Luke List bad. And that's going to really limit your upside, as it does with Luke List, who we'll get to. So I like Moore, but I love Kevin Na. Kevin Na has been killing it recently. I think he has 3 top 10s in his last 3 times out, and he has a top 10 here. All of that lines up to make Kevin Na an elite play for me, especially on FanDuel. I think DraftKings, I'll take Reed, please and thank you, for 100 more. But I had my original cash lineup had Na on it on DK, and it was my balanced approach lineup. I might keep it in and just hope the day narrative isn't a thing, but I kind of think it is a thing, and I don't want to mess with that. I thought with Phil at the Open that, this won't matter. Phil does well at the Open every year, blah, blah, blah. Bad idea. Phil got trounced at the Open, so yeah. Gary Woodland, I think, is definitely more in play on DraftKings at 7,100. I really like that play. Putting hasn't been awful lately, but his ball striking has been great. He has an 18th here, also a 60th in a year that Bombers tended to do really well here. That is worrisome. That year, his whole game was just kind of off, and I think he may have led the field in greens and regulation last week at the Dell. So I really like Gary Woodland this week at the 7,100 price tag. Ian Poulter, fade. Ches Reavie, fade. Ollie has been scoring in the ranges that I want, but I'm going to fade Ollie. Just been bad recently. Henley, fade. Keegan. Man, I don't know what to do with Keegan. I'm probably going to fade him too. Xander, 6,900 min price on DraftKings. Definitely in play. Plays better on these bent grass greens. I know I said that last week too, but he just was bad with his irons last week, and that really limited him. But he's been bad with his irons a few weeks in the past and then bounced back. So I like Xander to bounce back this week. I'll probably have him on DraftKings at 6,900. Not sure if I'll have him in cash. There's another guy in this range that I like also. So I don't really know about Xander in cash on DraftKings. Not on FanDuel at 5,800. Pass there. But I like him this week. I think he's kind of the best play in this range on FanDuel if you want to go there. Cauley, I'll fade. Siwoo, I'll fade. Harmon, I will also fade. I don't know why people are on Harmon this week as a sleeper. I'm totally off that guy. Steele, 13th here in 2015, but he's just been bad recently. I'll fade him. Kyle Stanley, good ball striker, but if these greens are slippery, I'm not going to take Kyle Stanley. Johnny Vegas, his stats are kind of buoyed by two really good performances in, the latter two of the past 3 weeks, or the former two of the last 3 weeks. I don't know how that latter two? Yeah, later in time? Later up till now? I don't know. But, yeah, those weeks, Vegas did really well. It didn't do so well last week. I'll be off of him on a course that I think putting will matter. Hadwin is sneaky this week if putting really is going to matter. Hadwin is an elite putter. The rest of his game has kind of come around last week, so could play him. I'm just not going to be going there. Lovemark, I'll be fading him. Scott Brown, I'll be fading him. Grayson Murray, I'll be fading him. Martin Laird, fade. Billy Horschel, fade. Pat Perez. I liked Pat Perez a lot at the start of the week. I'll say that because he was playing really well. Some of these last weeks. Pat Perez. I don't know what to do with Pat Perez. I think if you play him, it's on FanDuel at 5,200. But, I really like trying to get in as many studs as I can. And if it comes down to taking savings off of Pat Perez, I think I might do it. I like him on FanDuel, that price. He has good odds here. I don't have any problems with it in cash or GPP on FanDuel. DraftKings, I'll pass at 7,600. DeChambeau, I'm going to fade him. Sink, I'll fade him. Grillo, I kind of like Grillo this week, but I don't know what his upside is. I mean, he's just been, playing decent golf in all areas. He hasn't been, dialed in. So, I don't know. He hits fairways, and I think that might be a big advantage this week for him, but his putting has been not great overall lately, so I'm just going to fade him. Streb, fade. Hahn, fade. Swafford, I like a lot this week. I like Swafford a lot. Ball striking has been good, and the putting hasn't been atrocious, so there's that. I don't really have to say much else. If you want to play one of these, low-end guys, I think it's Xander and then Swafford. That said, I do like Swafford a lot. It's just when he shows this upside, he doesn't tend to keep showing it, and that kind of worries me. Luke List as well. Everyone's darling Luke List. I think he's more like 250 to 1 right now. Everyone always tries to throw some cash on him for whatever reason. He's a great ball striker. He hits the ball a fucking mile, and he scores on par 5s. And, his DK scoring, FanDuel scoring, he kills it because he birdies, bogeys, doubles, eagles, birdies, bogeys, everything. He doesn't shoot pars. So he leads it in par 5 scoring in this range. I think he leads in par 5 scoring probably overall, except for DJ maybe. But I think if you really need the savings on FanDuel, you can go down to Luke List and just hope that he has one really low round or just puts up a shit ton of birdies and gets some bogeys in there. But your expectations with Luke List should not be for him to go out and finish in the top 20 even. You just want him, I think, to finish around 35th maybe and just out fantasy score these other guys that are going to finish in that range. And even if he does do that, I think he's going to be I think he has more potential to do really well here than a lot of these other scrub range guys. So he's been playing decently well. He has 240ths in the last 2 events. That's not awful in these playoffs. My only issue is the putting. He putted well last week in Boston, and he putted well, and he is notorious for being a worst putter. The worst. So that's kind of where I am with him. If I had to pick one of these guys, it would be Swafford. Swafford would be the chalkier guy here too. Grillo has odds value, but Swafford is the trendier play. Kind of been playing well recently, so I like Swafford too. Um, I like Grillo as well. Grillo will be less owned for sure, especially on DraftKings. That price, I'm not going to pay there. But FanDuel 5,000, I like that. So that's all I've got for the BMW. But I do have some KLM Dutch Open stuff to break down here. Let's conditional format this real quick. Oh yeah, that's what I like. All right. So with this, I pretty much have everyone that I'm looking at here with their 2016 result from this course and their odds and their current form. A dash is all right form, and X is bad form. Dollar signs, the more the better. So getting into it here, starting at the top, our defending champion Joost Luiten, the Dutchman who is defending his title at the Dutch Open. Coming in decent form, but always has the potential to win this tournament. I mean, he's the best player in the field, and I would say, and he has that hometown factor here, which I think is big. That said, I'm just not paying that price for him right now this week. There's a lot of guys that I want to play in the 8 to 7K range that I'm really high on, and there's another guy in the 9K range that I'm really high on. So I'll be fading Juiced and hoping it doesn't bite me. Wiesberger has been pretty bad recently, so I'm going to be off of him. Ramsey just doesn't really do it for me. I should say this tournament will be held in bad weather too. And like Euro Tour guys, I don't know who that benefits. Link style players probably that are used to kind of the wind and the rain and the shittier weather, but I don't really even know who these guys really are. So I'm not going to take that approach this week. I'm going to take the guys that I want that are playing well and that have played well here in the past. Possibly, if they've played here in the past, a lot of these guys haven't. So that's my approach. Ramsey, I'm going to fade. Fisher, I'm going to fade. He's been really bad. Zanotti, I'm locking in on Zanotti this week. He's had 2 podium finishes in his last 2 times out, I believe. So he's in really good form. He's a 16th here. He's my guy at the top this week. Westwood, I will be off of after he didn't really do too well last week. Ryan Fox has been playing really well, but I don't love that play this week. I'm just not buying in on that. David Horsey, 4th place last year. He's in pretty good form. I think you can play him with Zanotti if you want, or you can play my guy, everyone's guy, golf Twitter's darling, Julian Surrey. Seems like a really fun guy now that I'm following kind of the Twitter sphere around him. I really like Surrey as a player. I can't wait for him to come over to the PGA Tour. Kind of like a Koepka, I think he has the potential to make that jump and do really well. If I had to take career odds on Surrey winning a major, I think I might take him to do that. Yeah, sorry, I just had to tell someone that a certain wingback in Champions League fantasy is absolute trash. Dude never performs for me. Yeah, Surrey is definitely my guy in this range too, along with Horsey. I mean, Horsey has that kind of performance here that I like to see. Paul Dunn, really good player. If the weather gets bad, I think Paul Dunn is a sneaky pick. Paul Dunn is kind of a link style player, Irish, from what I've seen from him in the past. So I like him this week. Sullivan I'll be off of completely. I don't know where he's been. Pepperell has been in good form, but missed the cut here before, and that kind of worries me with a young, kind of volatile player. He's probably in play for GPPs, but I'm not really playing heavy on a tournament where the weather's going to be so awful that I don't really know what's going to happen with that. I might take a look at the weather draw later while I'm bored and just kind of see like if I think a wave will have a benefit and maybe just dive in the quarter arcade and stack that wave. Um, what do I have to lose, right? Chris Wood, I'll be fading. JD played really well last week, but I'll be fading him as well. Tom Lewis has been hot fire recently, but he missed the cut here last week. That said, he hasn't had great history at some of these courses that he's been playing really well at. I think you play Tom Lewis this week, 8,700, reasonable price tag for him. Otegui didn't play well here last year, hasn't been playing too well, or he was on fire, and then he kind of sucked last week, so I'll be off of him again. Aaron Rye's kind of a trendy guy, but I'm going to be off of him. Burmester played not well here last year, but he's been really good recently. I like Burmester. I also really like Alexander Bjork, who's been playing better than Burmester, and doesn't have a bad performance here, but I think can play really well here this week. If I had to take form, I would take Bjork over Burmester. Fratelli has been playing all right golf, but he hasn't been playing upside golf, and Bjork has. So I'll be fading Fratelli this week at that price. Detry, I'll be off. Stone, I will be off. Illanen, I am in on Illanen. 7,900, I love that play. Morrison, decent play, but I like Illanen better. Padraig Harrington, fade. Chris Hansen has been in all right form. 8th place here last year. You can play him if you want, but I'm going to be playing Nacho Elvira. Just been in really good form. Made the cut last year here. I really like that play. So one of my lineups starts with Zanotti, Surrey, Bjork, Illanen, Elvira. That's a good 5. I like that. My other one starts Zanotti, Horsey, and then I kind of drop into the 7Ks. So I don't have a Bjork to kind of have the top salary there. Barnrat, I'll be fading. Canizares did well here last year. I'll be fading him. Coronen, 10th here last year. Bad form, though, so I'll be fading him. Colstars, 24th here last year. Bad form, I'll be fading him. He also had a withdrawal, so maybe he's injured. Ben Evans is definitely in play this week at 7,600. Played really well last year and has been in good form recently. Cutsy, I'll be fading. Bertasio, I don't mind Bertasio this week. He's been all right, but not really showing me the upside that I want to see. Campillo, I'll be fading. Aiken, I'll be fading. Rock, fade. Dubuisson, fade. Wall, fade. Donaldson, fade. Ashton Wu, I love this week at a course that he hasn't played or at a course he hasn't played at all. Sorry, trying to speed through this at the end here. But he's been in such good form that I love that play at 7,400, and he might go overlooked, just given the fact that he's a Chinese name in the middle of a bunch of British names on the Euro Tour. Oliver Fisher, 28th here last year, bad form, fade. Winther, fade. Wallace, fade. Carlson, fade. Bland, 16th here last year, decent form. Maybe he makes the cut, but I don't see the upside right now with the way he's playing. So I'll probably be off of him. Quesney, fade. CM, fade. Peter Hansen, fade. Dot, fade. Weidgren, fuck that guy. Cost me a lot of money. Fade. Havre, fade. Chesters. You can play Chesters. Don't mind it. Kind of trending down recently, though, so I don't love it. Huizing, fade. Manass, fade. Lagergren, fade. Storm, fade. Farbring, interesting play. I like Farbring this week. I like Farbring. He is in good form, kind of on and off, but coming in with a 34th here last year and with that kind of on-off upside showing form, I like him in GPPs, but my play in this range is Daniel M., our American friend. 34th here last year, made his last 4 cuts, finishing above 40th in all of them. I think he's a really safe kind of footnote to your lineup. So I will be having all of the Daniel M. this week. That's all for golf this week. That said, I will have a MMA breakdown again coming probably tomorrow in the evening. I'll probably try to do it before I go out. Maybe I'll pregame and do the MMA breakdown at the same time. Wouldn't that be fun? So that's all I got for the golf this week. Run it through real quick. Just a summary of my top plays on kind of each tournament. Spieth, JT, Fowler, Rahm. Day was one of my top plays, but then the caddy news hit. I don't really love it. Casey, Stenson, Reed, Rose, Phil on DraftKings, Leishman, Cantlay on FanDuel mainly, Chappell, FanDuel mainly, Schwartzel, both sites is alright, but mainly DraftKings, Kevin Na on both sites, Gary Woodland, DraftKings, Xander, DK, why is that bold? Pat Perez, FanDuel, Emiliano Grillo, FanDuel, Swafford, and List, both sites is okay. Euro, Zanotti, Horsey, Surrey, Fox is okay. Luiton, if you can get that salary, is okay. I might throw in a Luiton lineup just because I think he has a good chance to defend here with the Dutch narrative. Paul Dunn is alright. Tom Lewis is alright. Burmester is alright. Bjork, I love. Fratelli, fade, despite the bold. Illinen, love. Elvira, love. Evans is alright. Bertasio is alright. Ashton Wu, I love. And Daniel Im, I love. So that is my breakdown this week. That's all I've got. If you have any questions, you can find me on Twitter at mandrews93dfs. And feel free to like, share, subscribe, share this video around on Twitter. Ideally, I could get into a podcast with someone else. That way, you'll get more different angles than what I'm spewing out there to you. Yeah, I mean, you got a lot of tough decisions to make this week with salary, especially on FanDuel. But that's all I've got this week. So I'll catch you for the MMA in a day or two, and peace.